Welcome to the Kingdom Culture Podcast that was created on purpose with a purpose to empower, uplift, and guide others to the center of God's perfect will. Kingdom Culture family, welcome back to the Kingdom Culture Podcast. This week, I just want to have an open conversation about something that happened to me that made me very aware. As we know that this podcast, I want to be 100% vulnerable and help other people that might be going through the same things I'm going through or have the same backgrounds or anything else. So this past week, I got to visit our facility in Monterrey. So I got to meet the team out there. It was fun. And I'll have a whole other episode where I talk about all of that stuff. But we were at lunch and everybody was talking about their life, like, where did you grow up? Who are your parents? Where are they from? And I never really thought about my answers for that because, your parents, right? They're your parents. You should know everything about them. And to be honest, I knew everything about my mom, but nothing about my dad. And I told the person that asked me, I told him, I don't know. He wasn't really part of my life, and he passed away recently in 2018. So I don't really have an answer. And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And to me, it wasn't a big deal because I've already dealt with the emotions. I've already dealt with the truth behind the fact that he wasn't a big part of my life. And it dawned on me that, it is a big thing to lose your parent. It's a big event. And so this whole time since that conversation, I've been talking about and thinking about my father. I've been seeing pictures. I have been trying to remember the last thing I ever remember of him. And truth is, it's not pretty, right? Because he wasn't part of my life and his life choices were not the best. Again, people only do the best that they know how to do. And I have a lot of heart for him. I don't want to ever speak bad about him, and I'm never going to judge him for his actions. But I do want to know more. I do want to get into the conversations of hey, so how was my dad when he was younger? How did my mom and dad meet? What made my mom fall for my dad? Those kinds of things, because I've never had those conversations because it's always been a contained conversation of, oh, my dad's not part of my picture, so I'm not going to talk about it. Until I had this conversation and I realized ouch, I still have hurt from that. There's still things that I need to heal from. There's still things that I have to unbottle to make sure that I'm 100% healed and I'm able to keep moving on with my life. Because if we're honest, if any of you are like me that didn't have one of the two parents, there's always a part missing. There's a part of you missing that you just don't understand. I think for me, it came down to love. So I always told myself, if my parents didn't love me, how am I going to let somebody else love me? And one, I put my worth on the wrong things and the wrong people. And two, I always pushed people away. Now, through my healing journey and everything else that I've been doing for the last 3 years, it's been amazing to see all of the changes and all of the good things that have happened, And now I can tell you that I'm ready to talk about my dad. I'm ready to have those conversations. I want to know who he was. Does his ex-wife or my mom or somebody from my grandmother, do they have pictures of him when he was a teenager? Those cool 90s, 70s, 60s, 80s pictures that you get to see on TikToks? I'm pretty sure my dad has those pictures because my mom does. My mom has them, so I'm sure that he did too. And just start having the healing conversation, not only for just me, but my brother, my aunt, I know that she misses him a lot, and my grandmother, because we just never talked about him. We never discussed him as a family, and I don't think that's the right way to heal, right? And all I want to say with this is, if you have triggers, emotions, or something that feels off, take that as a blessing because it is helping you understand where you are with it. I thought I was good. I put my prayers up to the Lord. I said, hey, you know what? Maybe it was better for him to go this way. I got to meet him for 3 months. We had conversations. Maybe it was best. And I'm still going to, keep moving on with my life. And now we're here, and I get that, that conversation going, and I'm like, wow, I just never really knew who he was. I never knew my dad. So what do we do? What do we do now? Well, the first thing I did was journal. So before I can get into this camera and talk to you guys, I have to journal down my emotions. I have to think through what I'm feeling so that I'm able to, one, process them correctly, and two, let them go. So the first thing that I did was journal. Two, I identified my emotions. What was I feeling? Why did I feel this way? What is causing that? And one of the feelings that I came down with was anger. I'm still angry about the fact that I grew up without a dad, because of that, I chased after boys that I shouldn't have been doing. I shouldn't have been dating when I was 15, but there was a missing part of me. And this was before I knew Christ, right? So there was a missing part of me that wanted attention, love, and goodness from a male figure. Two, I felt sad because my son will never get to know who he was in person, right? But I put it in my heart that I'm going to talk about my father to my son. It was cool when he passed away. I was able to keep one of his watches, and I don't let anybody touch it because it's very dear to me, and it's the only thing that I have of him. So now I'll get to share that watch and tell him, hey, if you ever want to wear it, go ahead, and it could just be a ongoing thing for our family. I can show him pictures. I do have pictures of him. I can show him pictures that my grandmother probably has of us, and start digging into those conversations of like, Grandma, do you have any pictures of me and my brother with my dad? Do you have any pictures of him when he was younger? What is your best memory of him? Right? But it took me 29 years to be able to have those conversations and to become aware that I still needed to heal from the hurt and the disappointment of not having him in my life. Because let's be honest, I feel like girlies, we love having our dad around. I remember one time, my dad was with us. I think I was like 6 years old, but my dad was with us, and he was like, I'm going to spend the whole day with you guys. And that is the best memory I have of him. And I refuse to let it go. So, it's not perfect, but I tried to remember what we were doing. And we were at my grandmother's house. He was just talking and stuff. And then I also remember that he took us to a birthday party once. But all of those good memories, I just try to remember, because I don't want to lose who he was. He was my father, and I that's a part of me, right? And so another thing is, when I started coming to the ways of the Lord, the whole verse of respect your mother and father really hit home, because I did not respect him. I could not love him. I could not accept that he wanted to be a part of my life. So for a long time there, a few years, he kept calling me and I didn't answer the phone. So there's a little bit of regret there too. He tried to, get in contact with me, and I wanted nothing to do with him. I remember this one time he was on the phone and he told me how proud he was of me, and I punched a wall. So just, trying to change my mindset into gratitude of actually having a dad for a while, and actually realizing hey, you know what? Nobody's perfect. He did the best that he could, and forgiving him is a big, big thing. Because if I don't forgive him, I'm the one that's going to keep myself in a mindset of sadness, and a mindset of regret, and a mindset of not feeling like I had enough. And I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for my son. And so now that I'm aware of the fact that, hey, you know what? If my dad was in the picture, probably my life would be a lot different. I probably would have different mindsets about boys, men, whatever, marriage. But it wasn't like that. So the next best thing to do is to accept it, accept where I am, move on from it, learn, and heal. And that's what I want to share with you guys today. Start looking into those relationships, that you probably wanted to let go of, those relationships that you probably don't understand, and little by little start picking out the emotions that these people make you feel, and continue to work on it, continue to forgive, continue to let go, because at the end of the day, it's going to be better for you. It's going to bring more clarity to your life. It's going to bring more goodness in your life. Because now I can go and tell my son, hey, guess what? Grandpa left you this cool watch. And we had this big party this one time, and I get to tell him the memories that I have as a child with him. There's a picture that I just found of my brother and I when we were little, and my dad had big hair, black hair, poofy hair with a little mustache, and he looked so funny and silly. But those are the good memories you should keep. You know, if you were hurt as a child, if you feel like you were abandoned, if you didn't have a relationship with your parents, with whoever, my heart goes out to you because I understand it. I get how you're feeling. But there's always a better tomorrow. There's people in the world that are orphans, right? They don't even know their mom and dad. And when I put myself in those perspectives, I realized, hey, you know what? At least you know his name. At least you have people around you still that can tell you about him. At least you have a brother that you guys can discuss how you're feeling and talk about our dad, right? But it takes a lot of healing and it takes a lot of maturity to be able to accept where you are and move on from it. So I pray that this is a blessing and that you found some value in it. I pray that if you're going through something like me, you heal and you bring it up to the Lord, and then you have people that support you and have, the system needed to be able to heal fully. And again, as I always tell you, know that I love you, but the Lord loves you more. Always, always, always. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you really like this podcast, please share it, right? The best way to grow is through people. And I appreciate every single one of you that's already watching and giving me support. Much love. God bless. You guys take care. And we'll see you guys next week.